Okay. All right, we are week 18, day 1, and this is the week we finally start learning the last piece of your full stack puzzle, which is React. And I know we've all been waiting for this. So far, we've just learned HTML and JavaScript and CSS individually, right? And we've learned how to make an index.html page, and then you can have your styles.css and your scripts.javascript. We know how all those work separately, but we are going to now start learning how to use a tool that will make our lives so much easier. So we're going to learn React, and we could follow along with our README today, but y'all are nearing the end of this course. You're going to be expected to learn new technologies and languages and frameworks pretty much from the get-go at your job. So we're going to kind of go together figuring out how to set up a React app today. Like if you were tasked on your job, I need you to learn React. We don't know anything about this yet. This is something new for us. I need you to start looking into it and set up something basic and tell me what you learn. So we are going to start on the internet. Best place for all your resources and information. What if I'm trying to learn React? What do you think is probably the first thing I should look for when trying to learn a new framework or new anything?
What is React?
What is React? Okay, let's try looking that. What is React? Okay, so we got some stuff here. Look, we have a react.dev site. So that looks pretty good. We could try to go down all these Reddit wikis, but it's gonna give you their version of how to learn this stuff, and it can get quite overwhelming and or might point you down the wrong path. Best place to start is the official documentation. Like when we started learning Django, we linked you guys the official documentation. Sucks reading documentation, but it's a necessary evil. So we're gonna go to this React page. Um, all right. I want to learn how, I don't care about reading about what it is. I want to get into it and start working in it. So where should I go from here?
You want to go to learn?
Learn. Okay. We can, I guess, probably both will probably take
Or
us to the same place. Hey, look, when we push learn, we get brought here to a quick start guide right away. It says, welcome to React documentation. So, oh, and it gives you an intro to 80% of the concepts that you'll use on a daily basis. We're not going to go through this because we're going to break it up and teach it to you individually. But this would be probably where you would start it on the job, is just reading this page to kind of get a general idea of what this tool can do, and kind of a little bit about how it works. But if we look over on this menu here, I'm thinking more about doing the installation and setup type. I just want to get working in it. I want to start playing in this React app. Just want to put up a hello world page, basically. So let's see, let's go to installation, because every language is going to have like an install page. Um, okay, that might be a lie. A large majority of them will have an install or setup. This one has it broken up, so I'm starting with the install. But okay, so let's see. Try React. You don't need to install anything. Okay. We can play in the sandbox, but I want to create a React app. I want to make my own React app. So, okay, we can create using a framework, or we could build our own framework. What does it mean, framework? What is a framework? Do we know?
this code that other people wrote that we can import.
Okay. A library would also fit that definition, but a framework is a bit different. Django is a framework. Um, there's one distinguishing feature for a framework versus like a library or something like that that we just pull in and use other people's code.
A framework actually it streamlines the process of setting up projects within uh well, it streamlines the process of setting up a project using whatever resource we want, or that particular resource for that library, and it'll create a scaffold or a directory uh, structure, with most of the things already set up and prepared for you to get off and running quicker.
Yep, for sure. So it definitely helps set up that structure in this tool. Like libraries don't really set up your structure for you. You just kind of import things and use them. But a framework will set up a full file system structure for you. And we can see here, this one says full stack framework. So a lot of frameworks have the capability to do a front end and back end um, like a full stack and have your own. With Django, it uses SQLite as the default database, but we didn't bring you through it, I don't think, in Django, but you could set up a front end in Django. You can do a view that's, oh, we did a little bit. I think we had the HTML rendered page, I think, from one of the views. But
Yeah,
that is a framework. Django has the back end as well as the front end built all together in that one app. And so React can do the same thing. It has like full stack frameworks built into it. So it has like Next.js, React Router, Expo, but we don't need a framework ourselves because we just want to use the front end portion of React. We're not going to use the back end structure that Enact or React has available to us here. So this creating a React app with a framework probably doesn't work for us because we're going to use Django for our backend, our Django REST framework. We're going to use a REST framework as our backend. So let's go ahead and look at this build from scratch. So want to build our own or just learn the basics, we can just build it from scratch. So to do that, there's a few different ones we can use. It looks like we can use Vite, Parcel, or RS Build. We are going to use Vite. It's like the fastest and leanest in development right now. And you can see it comes with sensible defaults out of the box. This is just a solid way to go. So this is the way we're going to teach you in class, but there is nothing wrong with exploring the other builds you could do with React or even using the framework. I think when I went through this course, we actually did the I think we did React Router, maybe, but it's always in development. They're always bringing out new things. This version's always going to increment. So as new builds are added, newer, better things are used. So that's why we're using Vite. It's newer, better. And it's in the framework of React Router. Okay, so this right here says step one. We can create a I guess project for lack of a better term. Let's see. So we can use this full npm create Vite at latest. It looks like this is probably the name of it and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm just going to make sure. Let's go to get started. That's what I want to use. Look, this looks easier. I'm going to use that. That looks way easier. I don't want to mess. I don't know what all these different tags are, these parameters we can pass in. So we're going to just keep it simple. We're just going to use this npm create Vite at latest. And that is something we put in the terminal. And it's supposed to give me my first Vite React project started. So let's go ahead and try that. Copy that. Love code snippets. It's my favorite thing in documentation. Okay, so when I do that here, okay, it looks like I need to install some packages. Sure. Unsupported engine. It's just a warning though. It's not an error, so that's fine. And it looks like project name. We'll just name this, like they said, byte project. We're just messing around. So now, even though I said we weren't going to do a framework like that was provided to us, we still need to select one anyways. So we're going to use React. And we're just not choosing like a build that was pre-done for us. We're kind of working from the ground up here, making our own frameworks, so to say. So we need to select React. Now this one, there's lots of different variants of React. TypeScript, you may have heard of TypeScript. You could certainly look into that. It's pretty popular. We don't use that. JavaScript, we totally know JavaScript, right? We learned that in the beginning of this course. React Router, all these other things here. It looks like those do. That's telling you to do the framework there. That would have you do the framework. Okay, we are going to run the JavaScript variant, okay? I honestly don't know what SWC means. I'd have to Google that and look that up, but we are going to use JavaScript because that is what I mean, it's just what we're most comfortable in for a programming language at this point in time. So let's go ahead and choose that. Okay, well, now we're out of that, and it put this Vite project folder here. This is my React app. It created it, and this is all you have. That's, I mean, much less than Django, right? Django spits out so many different things. But here we just have, oh, thank you. Thank you. SWC is Speedy Web Compiler. Okay. Yeah, something to look into. Art, do you have a question?
Yes. Do we need to be in a virtual environment to do this?
No, we don't. Because it's going to save all your dependencies. It's not in here right now. We'll see it when we do it. But it's going to have a node modules folder, and it's going to save everything in there, all your dependencies. So kind of like your virtual environment is its own folder and has everything kind of wrapped in there. React will keep it in that node modules folder. And when you do your git ignore, you're going to ignore node modules. Don't want to see that in your files passed to GitHub. Okay, so now that we've got our React app up and running, any other questions so far on how we found how to start this React app and then all of our...
Nope.
No, all right. Okay, so now let's look around inside the React app and see what we have here. Actually, JK, the README wants me to start it up first. So I've got this React app going, but I don't have, nothing's running anywhere. I don't have I'd expect a web page, right? Because this is a front end tool we're using. And I'd expect to be able to see an HTML page on a web browser and be able to see all the changes I'm doing, but nothing, I don't see anything here showing me anything about that. So let's go back to here. Okay, so after we did our installation, it usually says, oh my gosh, it says it right here. Okay, let's read the terminal a little bit better. It says done. Now run these. But it's not a suggestion, it's a requirement. This is telling you how to activate your React app here. So first line, change directory into our Vite project. So now we're inside our Vite project. Now we're gonna do an npm install. Okay. npm install, it's gonna think for a while. This should be where the node modules appear. Yep. This is where it makes your node modules folder, where all your dependencies, all your libraries that you're using are going to go into. And then what was the last thing I needed to do? npm run dev. Oops, in there. Okay, npm run dev. Oh, and now it gives me, it says it's running on this port, 5173. I could open in browser. I could also click here to follow the link, and we can see this is my React app. Like, this is the boilerplate that they give you with some stuff in it, which we'll look at in a second. That's pretty cool. All right, and some spinny things. Very nice. So this is like when we run the live server in VS Code and open up our HTML in the browser. That's what that npm run dev did. It started up your server here so you can see your React app in real time as you make changes. Okay, I'm gonna pull that over to the other screen. Now we're gonna take a look at what's in this React app project. So I already pointed out the node modules that came up when we ran our npm install, because that's installing all the packages that are required to run React. Let's see, in public here, looks like it's just an image. Now in source, we can see that there is an index.css. Let's see, a couple other things. Is there any, how do we know where this React app starts? Where's our entry point into this app? It's like HTML, so where would we think our file that is the entry into our app is?
It's well, so it's main.jsx is where it starts, but app.jsx is where most of the code stuff you'll find for the
Okay,
index page.
look, but we have this index.html as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this, when we look at it, this is a regular HTML page. And it has it has your head with all your meta information in it, and then it has a body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's linking to, let's see, this div ID root, and then a script, like a JavaScript, how we pull in our JavaScript we wrote back in the day, trying to like add stuff to the DOM and all that jazz. It's pointing us to a script file. And that script file is main.jsx. So this is the entry point, because this is what the web browser is going to look for and find. And once it finds this, it's going to run this script, which this stays the same. This main.jsx, you leave it alone. Don't touch this page. This is basically telling the everything else that we're going to pull in this app, which we're going to go over this in a little bit. So just hold any thoughts or questions. But we can see, like, this looks familiar, right? Get element by ID. We did that when we were adding stuff to the DOM with JavaScript. We'd have to like get element by type or by ID or whatever. So this one's getting that root element that we saw in our index.html, which is right here. Get this element, this div, and render this code. So everything we're going to be writing is pulled in right here and thrown into this HTML div. So that's how React works. It's pretty cool. Now, it's a little different. These file, let's suffix, right? Is that the one I'm looking for? Yeah. The extension, the file extension. It looks different, right? This is not, so this is JavaScript looking, but this is kind of not, right? What does this look like to you? This structure here. What kind of, what
An
language?
HTML tag.
Yep, it looks like HTML tags. So JSX files are a little special and different in that it's magic and it combines JavaScript with HTML. So you can write both JavaScript and HTML elements in these files, and then it will be compiled by React appropriately before it makes your HTML DOM at the end. So pretty cool. Anything that has a JSX, you can write both JavaScript. Oh, so we can see here, this is say, render this app, which app comes from this app.jsx. So let's look at that. That has a lot more stuff on it now. And kind of looks familiar. Look at this count, this on click, this button. This is HTML, right? Button on click. Well, and then it does some JavaScript here. We'll learn about that a little bit later. But this is something we're familiar with too, right? We got our HTML tags here. Everything looks a little more normal. And that actually, this app page is what is rendering this. So if we look at it, we see we have an image here, which is the Vite dev, which is this one, this Vite dev logo. Then we have another image here right next to it, which is the React one. Then we see our header here. Oops, I didn't mean to click on that. It has Vite plus React. That's right here. So we can see all these elements on the screen here. So this app.jsx is what we can work in and we should work in to change how our page looks. So this is pretty confused. There's a lot of stuff in here. There's some things we're going to go over like this. Don't need to worry about that right now. We're going to learn about that in a future class, but let's just pull out all of this. Where's the end div? Nah, let's just go between the two empty tags. Okay. Or nothing. So this is just a JavaScript function, right? We have function, that's JavaScript, app is the name of the function. This is where we would normally pass in parameters, right? Arguments for our function. But it doesn't take any because we're creating everything down below and spitting it out at the end. And this return, so you do stuff in a function and then you return something. In React, we return basically the HTML that you're going to see on the screen. So we're just going to make our hello world here. In the return is where you're going to put your HTML. Okay, so here, let's do a header. And we're just going to say hello world. Let's see how this looks. This is our HTML. So this function is basically, when we call this function, it's just going to return an HTML header that says hello world. And down here we have this export default app. So this is exporting this function so that main can pick it up. Main is importing that function from that page and running it here. And we're going to learn about what these are in a little bit. This is the way we have to structure it though for everything to get rendered appropriately. Okay, so we did that, our hello world. Let's take a look and there we go. Perfect. So we can see that any HTML we put in here will be displayed like normal in our React app. Okay, so Okay, we're gonna keep it simple. So now this all together, this function that doesn't have anything being passed in, and this return statement with some HTML in there, or whatever, this whole thing is called a component. And this is kind of what makes React literally the coolest. When we write a web page in HTML, we'd have to, if we wanted to write hello world in multiple places, we'd literally have to type it again and again. In React, because we're wrapping this in a function, this function can be called over and over and over again, right? So this function can be reused. And components is what, well, I'm going to stop using the name function now. This is called a component in React. So components can be reused throughout the application. And in order to use a component, you have to structure it like this. So it looks kind of like an HTML element, right? Has an opening tag, but it also has a closing tag in the same line here. All in the, I guess, for lack of a, it's not split up. Typically you'd see something, you know, like that, and then an app with the end thing or whatever. But in React, these components, you call them kind of like an image tag, where you don't necessarily need like a closing to it, but where is the explanation? So if your component doesn't have a body, then it's equivalent to like a self-closing tag. However, if you have more to it, like in our main, we have stuff here, React will not take just a normal thing like this. You have to close it. So to do that in shorthand, you just add this little slash closing at the end. Have I super confused anybody yet? So this is a component because it is a function that returns our HTML that we're going to render. And this component is exported here. And to call that component, I put the name of that function in like a opening and closing tag situation here. And make sure to leave a space too. All right, any questions yet? Okay,
Nope.
so, oh, do we have a question or no?
Oh,
No.
no.
Okay, so I said components can be reused, right? I can just literally call this component again. Well, okay, let's not do it in the app. Okay. We don't mess with this main JSX, okay? Main JSX don't mess, but we do mess with app. This is where you're gonna do all your stuff. So normally this is a component that you don't export or really mess with, except for going into the main. But this is what's gonna hold all the components that you make elsewhere. So I don't want to just put plain HTML in this app component. We can, but then this is our, like, essentially this is our entry point into the app, right? Because we went through from here to main to this. So anything we put here is going to show up on that first page. And if we start just writing a whole HTML web page in here, that's going to get really lengthy. And then we're probably going to be repeating stuff we don't want to repeat. So first things you'll do in your source folder, you're going to make components folder. And it should, oh, never mind, it's not capitalized. Okay, it's gonna be lowercase. In this components folder, this is where you're going to make more pages like this. So let's take, instead of having hello world right here, I'm going to copy this whole thing, okay? And I'm going to make a new file under components, and I'm going to call it hello.jsx. Okay. And we don't need to import anything. I guess we could, yeah, we'll leave the apps CSS. If you follow along with the README, in order to make it easier, it has you just delete all these CSS stuff everywhere. But go ahead and leave it, it's fine. In the app. So we're just learning components today. We'll look at more about the CSS and styling and third-party libraries and stuff at another point. So I'll leave that importing there. Now, we already have a function called app in our main app. Don't ever use this as a function name for your components. Let's change it to something a little more pertinent. Let's call this one like hello world. Now it grays out because, let's hover over and see why. It's declared, but it's never read. That's because we need to export hello world here. So whenever you change the name of your component function here, always make sure to change it in the export default as well, because that's how you're going to access this component from other files in your app. So now we have our hello world, and it's returning this header hello world. I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to just call that component that I made, which I will have to import. Import hello world. And look, it's smart. If you start typing, usually you can find it, and you see it says, you know, pull it from this components folder. So I'm going to tab, and just, it's already got everything correct in there for me for this hello world. Now I can call this component hello world and make sure to close it after you've called it. So now I would expect, because my hello world component, okay, I'm trying to find what best practice is, and I thought that was the case. Typically, your components are capitalized. That's where the capital comes in. Up to the, yes. Do that, because now when I go back to my app, it redid my import here. So lowercase for the folder, uppercase for each component. We can see, you know, app.jsx is uppercase, but that's just a best practice. That's a standard for React, not make or break, but definitely something you want to get used to. Okay, so this hello world component that I just wrote returns the header, or the heading hello world, and we are calling it in our app. So theoretically, my page should seem unchanged. Failed to resolve. Why did we, hello, does the file exist? From components, hello, hello world. Why did we get this? I think, let's see. Go back to the beginning page here. I think it's because we need these. React is a little funky. So a lot of times if you have, it should have worked with this, I thought, but if you return, oh, that's not what was happening here. Let me just make sure this works. Failed to resolve. Import where? Oh, probably for my component. Jeez. No, we're not gonna import that. We don't need to import anything. We're just gonna create our component. There we go. Okay. So those imports were throwing it because I'm now nested within the components folder. But okay, so let me see, did I have to, let me check this. I didn't think this would do this, but I guess it does. Oh no, that's fine now. Okay. Let's go see. It can get a little picky sometimes. So just read your errors and make sure you resolve them. It's usually going to be something with your imports or how you've structured this, but we haven't come up on the thing yet. I'm going to teach on some certain rules with containerizing these components. Okay, so back to our component. So I made that component in a different file here, and we've exported it. And now in our main app, in our main app.jsx, we can use this component right here. And I can reuse it again. But it's doing something weird. And when I hover over it, we see it says JSX expressions must have one parent element. And this is the error that I thought we were running into earlier, but we weren't. It was just a issue with the imports. You need to have something around, like an HTML tag around these two. You can't have multi-line return. It has to be enclosed by a single tag. So a lot of times you'll see a div being used to kind of wrap everything up. Right? So now once I put that div in, it stopped complaining about it. So you can't have multi-line HTML elements in here. You need to have one solid parent element. You can't have like several divs. Like I can't do another div right here and, like have a header here. It's not going to like that. And again, because you need one parent element. So you have to wrap your component in one parent element. So in this case, we used a div as our parent element. And so then we can see everything's happy. Now, what do we think is going to happen on the React or on our web page when I pull it up? Called this component twice now. What do we think the web page is going to look like?
It's going to have hello world twice on there.
Exactly, because that is what React says it does, and that's what I'm hoping it does. It does. So this component that we wrote, we can use it over and over and over again all throughout our application, and it just spits out what we told it to spit out here. So that's one of the great things about React. We can write something and we can reuse it. Like if we go to like Google, typically you're always going to see on top of Google sites your Gmail images and this apps thing. So chances are this is like a navigation bar that you would want on all of your pages when you're navigating to different areas. So that's a great use for a component that can be reused over and over. So instead of writing a nav bar on every single page you make, you can just make a component and call the nav bar on the page. Let's see. We can also, so now that we've wrapped it in a div, we can also add in other HTML within it too. You can literally put whatever you want on this page as long as you wrap it HTML wise and component wise, as long as you wrap it in a parent. So now when we come back to our React, we can see it goes right there. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, it's just something to add. If you, for some reason, don't want a div in your DOM, like you don't want everything surrounded by a div, I don't know, there could be reasons, I don't know why. React has something built in called, let's see, what is it called? Fragment, React Fragment. So instead of doing a div, you can do, well, first we're going to have to import it, it says, and this is in the README. When importing libraries in React, or where is it? You put curly brackets, and then you say the name of what library or third-party helper you want to use. So we're going to import fragment from React. And this is how, and we can see it did that up here with use state, which we'll learn about another day. We're going to import fragment. Now I can use fragment here, and then we're going to end with a frag. Okay, so now let's go over and see what that does to our page. Let's inspect this. So we can see that we have that div root because that was on our main.jsx, right? Or no, that was in the index, sorry. And then now we just see hello world header there. We have our adding the other HTML and another hello world. But I don't see a div around these. I only see that this one, this div. So React Fragment lets you wrap in a parent object without it showing up in your DOM. So if you didn't want to see a div or a parent object around these elements, then you can just use fragment to kind of hide that. Okay. Any questions on a component? We are starting off super slow. You're only learning how to make a static web page right now. Tomorrow we will look at making it a little bit more dynamic. And by that, I mean, like when I was on the React app the first time and I was clicking that counter, that's dynamic, right? A user interacts with it and it does something. But today, I just want you to understand how to get HTML produced by using this React structure here. Don't touch this, always work in app.jsx. This is your landing point for your app, and any reusable things you make a component for it. And it just keeps it simpler. It's also like the separation of concepts. So if I was making like a profile card, I'd probably stick that up there too as a component. All right. If there's no questions, I will go ahead. Yes, Art.
I was glancing at the assignment for tonight, and it looks like we're going to have to duplicate a website. And in that website, it has an image. So would we create, if like, for example, in this case, if we wanted to put an image on this web page, would we create a new folder and store all the images in that one and then just refer to that particular image?
You could, so let's see. I'm gonna go all the way back to, let me get back to the very beginning here. There's probably a faster way to return to the beginning. Okay, so this one did put it in this assets folder. And it's just pulling in the let's see, for the React logo, so that's this one. So it's using this href tag to target. Let's see. Oh no, sorry, that's the link. Sorry. So it made that image a link, but it's doing an image tag with the source going to this React logo. So if you want to pull an image this way, just kind of follow this structure. So it's an image with an opening and closing tag, and the source equals curly brackets, whatever the name. Let's see. I guess it's just React. It just gave it a name up here from that image. So you could just give it a name. Otherwise, you could do like this, do an href tag and find an image online that's similar. Like, does it have an image somewhere? Oh, there's the link to the image. Okay, so right in there. Let me see what that looks like. I did not pull it up. Does that image actually still work? Let me go there. Okay, yeah, it does. Oh, it's probably got to be sorry, it's been a while since I've done image source. I can't remember how to do this.
Tiffany, you can do image source and just keep the link. Like, yeah, so
Like this.
SRC instead of source.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't done HTML in a minute, so I'd have to look up the tag, but thank you.
That should work.
Image source. Okay, there we go. Perfect. There you go. So it gives you the image link. You do that as a source for the image tag. But that's another example. Look, we can put whatever we want in this return, as long as it's enclosed by, and this one uses just empty. That's the parent element there, is just empty tags. So you can do that too. But then if we if we inspect that, it has, let's see.
Yeah, that it won't show a div or anything. It's a shortcut for the fragment. So you don't have to spell out fragment.
Yeah, I was trying to look at, okay. So it has the div, then it has the script, then the span. I guess it's see, what the? Is that this?
Yeah, that's the image you put in, that duck
Oh,
image.
here we go. Okay. I was trying to look at this right here. So we can see that's the div, that's the, okay. So it doesn't show either. Got it. All right, the more you learn. So that one also doesn't show up in your DOM if you do it like that. And that was just empty tags here. Okay, I'm going to stop recording and we'll go over the rest of what you're supposed to do for your assignment tonight.